Networking and marketing made simple is for you, the business owner who has a product, a service, or a message that you believe in. My name is Scott Aaron, and each week we'll take a behind-the-scenes look into the real-world marketing and networking tactics and strategies for getting what you have in front of you to a lot more people. Thanks for spending time with me, and now let's get started. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Networking and Marketing Made Simple. Before we jump into today's episode, I have another special guest with me.
Woohoo!
She's back by popular demand.
Yeah.
Well, by my popular demand. I love when she does episodes with me. So anyway, a couple important and exciting announcements. Number one, well, first, I just want to thank the nearly 500,
Holy cow. Yeah.
We want to thank the nearly 500 people that have registered and participated in our 5-day LinkedIn intensive. Today is day 4 of 5 days. So it's tonight at 8:00 Eastern again. We hope you've enjoyed the first 3 days. But the other exciting announcement is this. It is official. Nancy and I have officially launched our brand new 12-month group coaching program called, drumroll, Expert Authority. Now, what this program is, it teaches high-level entrepreneurs, business coaches, executives, professionals within your industry, not only how to leverage LinkedIn in a much deeper and more meaningful, effective way to brand and market yourself, but this year we will be taking this group through exactly how to do that on LinkedIn, plus show you how to write and publish your first book around your zone of genius and how to launch a successful podcast based around your zone of genius. Now, if this sounds like you and this is something that you want to do, the cart is officially open for people to enroll in our group coaching program that begins February 1st. In a couple weeks, we are having our first onboarding call, and the first training is the week after, February 8th. It's a Monday. More details are to come. Now, here's what you need to know. If you join our program between today, which is Thursday, through this Sunday at midnight, you are going to save 40% off the normal rate for people that are going to pay after Sunday. So the link to enroll in this program is in the description. And there's 2 options. You can pay in full, and you can also pay monthly for 12 months. We make it very flexible and easy for people. And if you've always wanted to leverage LinkedIn in a more deeping and meaningful way to market and brand you and your business, you want to write that first book, you want to launch that podcast or release your second book and really become that expert authority, that is what we're doing with people this year. And we are super excited. So click the link below to check out how to enroll. Now, what do all experts have in common, Nancy? There's 3 things that all experts have in common. And I want you guys to think about this. What podcasts do you listen to? What books do you read? Who do you follow on social media? What are the common trends that you see? So, Nancy, what is the first thing that all industry expert authorities have in common?
Well, let's actually play a little game, Scott. So I'm going to ask you, I actually want to ask you who your top 3 favorite influencers are, and then let's go from there. So name a couple people that you are influenced by or that you follow.
So I love Robin Sharma.
Okay. One more.
I love Gary Vaynerchuk.
All right, Gary Vaynerchuk.
And just why I love Robin because of his leadership aspect and what he stands for in really being a true leader in your space. And I love Gary, not so much about the quote unquote hustle or grind, but how he's so great at marketing and branding yourself and creating content on social media. I love both of them for their specific zones of geniuses.
Excellent. So I will tell you the first thing that they both have in common, they both have a book. Okay. So I know that Robin Sharma, right? He has the one,
He's
what was
got
that called?
well, he's got three main books. He's got his newest one is called The 5 a.m. Club. His first book was called The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. And his first big leadership book was called The Leader Who Had No Title. And if you look at Gary,
Right. So
Gary
Gary
has
has, yep.
crushed it, and jab, 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 right hook.
Yeah. So stopping right there, right? We talk about all the things that experts have from a PR standpoint, from an expert standpoint, from setting yourself apart from all the noise and all the other standpoint. Most, in fact, I'm going to say, probably safe to say, almost all experts and big influencers out there. I mean, even your Simon Sinek's of the world, the Mel Robbins, the Bill Gates, like guys, every single one of them have certain things in common. And that is almost all of them have a book. Okay. And I know how many people out there, and I know Scott touched on our expert authority program, like, but how many people out there have always wanted to write a book or have enough knowledge, right? You know, you're an expert in your field and you want to write, you know, some of the things that you've learned and you want to share with others. They have a book and you want to have a book. Okay. So, book.
Now, again, I've written 4 books, and Nancy and I are actually writing one together that will be out at some point this year. And the fun thing is, I think we're going to be writing books along with our group because, we always practice what we preach, and it's a good thing to do with everyone. But the one big thing that you need to know about a book, and I'm just going to share an example with you. Last Sunday, I was just checking notifications on social before Nancy and I had to get to do some business, and a guy messaged me on LinkedIn, and he said, "Hey Scott, just wanted to reach out. Just purchased and I'm reading your LinkedIn book, and I am loving it so far." Now, number one, knowing that someone can just go on Amazon anywhere around the world and purchase my LinkedIn book, but also there are ways that I can direct people of how to build the know, like, and trust with me. Because I mentioned my free infographic. I mentioned joining my Facebook community. I mentioned emailing me or messaging me. And here's my profile on LinkedIn. And it's a way to build a larger community. My book, it's been out for almost 2 years, still sells 2 to 3 copies every single day for 2 years. And that is so impactful because, again, if you just have a social media presence and that's it, and I don't even care if you have a big social media following. If you don't have that authoritative and expert authority to back that, because when, 2020 was so impactful. I started training and teaching some of the largest financial firms in the world because of my credibility, because there were books around my zone of genius, because there was a podcast around my zone of genius, because there was all of that credibility of what people were saying about what I did. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, well, Scott, Nancy, how can I get that edge? How can I take where I am now and really get that authoritative expert edge on people out there? A book is a great way to do it. And that's exactly what we're going to teach you how to do. So that's number one. The number two thing, just the examples that I gave, we're using Gary Vee and Robin Sharma. You can think of anybody you want. The second thing they have in common is what, Nancy?
They have a podcast.
That is correct.
Yeah. And in fact, Robin Sharma, for anyone listening, I go to him for mindset tips. My gosh, he's got a podcast. It's Morning Mindset Mastery, and it's 2-minute episodes. Guys, it like sets your day up for success. I just stinking love it because it's 2 minutes. He gets on there and he says something profound, and you're like, whoa, and it's amazing. So, anyway, the second thing that most experts have in common are their podcasts. right? Podcasting is such an amazing way, and a lot of people don't fully understand the power of podcasting. But podcasting is such an amazing way to build that know, like, and trust factor with your audience in such an amazing way. And in fact, podcasting is recommended as one of the best ways that if you have a high level offer, let's say you guys put together a mastermind or you put together a huge summit or you're going to, do something that's a high ticket, podcasting is such a great platform to talk about it because with your episodes and after sharing so much value and your expertise and all that kind of stuff, it's a great way to warm people up quickly. I mean, how many of you, okay, and I know we're not, I can't see you, but where you are right now, whether you're in your car, in your office, in your, wherever, but how many of you have binged, 5 or 6 episodes in a row and gone, whoa, right? I did that. I mean, I know obviously this podcast is amazing, but there's another podcast I love to listen to, by a big marketer, and I jumped on his podcast
You
and
can
I
say
was
his name.
Stu McLaren.
Yeah, he's
I don't
great.
know. Yeah, for anyone who knows or might not know of him or whatever. I stumbled across the podcast because I was actually just searching, social media marketing tips or whatever. And I started binging his episodes, which again were about 10 minutes, 15 minutes long, right? Very consumable, very easy to listen to. And it was solid gold. Every single episode, I was actually pausing it and doing talk to text on my phone, writing down the notes because it was such juicy information. And within the fifth episode, I turned to Scott and I was like, you need to listen to this guy. I mean, it is like the best information.
And she was right.
And at the end of it, I was like, look, if he ever has a mastermind, we're in, right? It was like the easiest decision because again, he shares so much value. He knows what he's talking about. So the power of podcasting is so much more than just jumping on and just, well, I'm going to talk about this today. It's offering that value, and it's obviously sharing your expertise with those people out there who are looking for that information.
And just to kind of give you guys the metrics, when I first started my podcast, which was just about 2 years ago, November was 2 years. It started off just like any other podcast. Like I had 5 listeners, I had 10 listeners, and just to kind of give you the 2 year journey, you know, anywhere between 2,000 to 3,000 listeners a month now. 2,000 to 3,000 listeners a month, which means, and my friend Emily Goff, who was on my podcast, she's a podcast coach, and she says that podcasting is one of the most intimate experiences that a listener can go through because you're talking directly to that person. You're talking right into their ears because you're listening to this because you know that there is something of value that I bring each and every week to you that is going to help you to move your business forward. And that's why I did this. I wanted to create a means and an avenue to connect with more people on a weekly and monthly basis. And a podcast is great for that because people can listen anywhere around the world. You can listen to your car, you can listen in your office. And I just want to move that needle of people's businesses forward. So having that podcast, again, that adds to what your zone of genius are and is only increases your expert authoritative figure. And that's again, so many people want to have a podcast or they've thought about having one. They don't know where to get started. They don't know how to get started. They don't know if they should even have one. Listen, uh, why I knew that Nancy and I needed to launch this program. So I was interviewing a guest on my podcast that's coming out later this year. And I said, do you have a podcast? And he said, yes. He goes, I have two. He goes, one's a business one. And the other one is about pizza. And I said, what do you mean it's about pizza? He goes, well, it's a podcast that helps and teaches pizzeria owners how to grow their business. Because I was online looking for some help with, because I own multiple pizzerias and I was looking for other ways of how to grow it. And there was nothing out there. So he goes, I created it myself. And he goes, now I have a coaching and consulting practice where I help pizzeria owners all around the world grow their business the way that I have. So if someone could have a podcast that helps pizzeria owners, you could have a podcast that helps the people within your zone of genius as well. Now, Nancy, having that authoritative figure on LinkedIn, which is one of the best ways to market and brand you and your business. And having that podcast, having that book, what does that all equal in the end with what you have in place?
Yeah, it's a little something that I call, and it's something that I kind of wanted to share a little behind the scenes of your journey, right? And that what we did. But it's a little something I call the brick house of credibility, right? So several years ago, and I remember, right, Scott, we were walking around in my living room and we were just kind of tossing ideas back and forth, right? Because Scott had been coaching on LinkedIn for a while, right? I mean, he still eat sleeps and breathes LinkedIn right at this point. And he was teaching a lot of different people, but we were trying to brainstorm ways, right, to really set him apart and to really, like I said, build his brick house of credibility so that it was a no-brainer for people to hire him,
And just to
for
kind of,
LinkedIn.
yeah, just to give you the timeline, this was around February, March of 2018. So this was just after Nancy and I had been dating for about 3 or 4 months, and I was just kind of frustrated because I wanted people to take what I was doing more seriously. So Nancy made a suggestion.
Yeah. So again, we were just kind of walking around and we're like, all right, what do all the big people have? Right. What do all the experts, in different industries have? And we started just riffing and we're like, all right, they all have podcasts, they all have books, they all have this, that, whatever, they're all featured in certain things. Right. And so it's like we started kind of going down that rabbit hole. And right then and there, Scott decided, he's like, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write a book on LinkedIn and it's going to be amazing and it's going to be tangible. It's going to be what all these other books are missing. Right. And so that was line in the sand, step one. And about what was it, like 8 months, 9 months later?
It
You
it took,
published.
yeah, no, well, it actually, with the help of my buddy Brian K. Wright, if you're listening, hey Brian, um, he helped me put the book together, and we started writing it in May of 2019, and it wasn't released until March of 2019. So from May of 2018,
Mhm.
so 10 months. It took us 10 months to put this book together and release it. And it's honestly one of the greatest accomplishments in my business.
Yeah, and not even just that, right? So we learned how to do that, right? We learned how to go through the rigmarole of actually choosing the title and the cover and all the different pieces and parts that go into that, right? We know how to do it. And of course, Scott's done it multiple times since then. Obviously getting better each time and streamlining. Guys, we also spent thousands of dollars on learning the strategies of how to actually market and get your book out there.
Nearly $15,000 for the first book.
Yes. And again, more learning for us and more just solid gold nuggets for us to share with you guys, especially in our program that's coming up.
Yeah, and it's not to say that, Nancy and I do not feel that money was not worth it. It was totally worth it.
100% worth it. And again, in the end, we just see so many people struggling and saying, "Oh, well, I could never do that," or "Oh, I've got a book in me," or "Eventually one day," right? And I love the Les Brown quote, and this kind of comes. We were doing a video the other day, and I just was feeling it. And Les Brown, the quote is, and Scott, help me out here with this.
He
It's
says some of the greatest ideas, businesses, and thoughts are buried in the graveyards around the world.
in fact like most right ideas
Gifts,
or whatever. Yep.
ideas, all those
Are
things.
buried in the graveyard, meaning you're going to the grave with your hopes and dreams and those things that you always said you were going to do. And so when it comes to writing your book, guys, we've been there, we've done it. It's part of Scott's journey. We're teaching what we know, right? So from the book, okay, here's another. So we're randomly, I don't even remember where we were, but I was in the car and I was listening to Russell Brunson's marketing
That's
podcasts.
right.
And I was so beyond jazzed because Russell Brunson, where he calls his podcast, it was like the Marketing University on Wheels or something, where you can just listen to it for 5 minutes or 10 minutes in your car. And I came in the house and I was like, Scott, you have to start a podcast and you have to keep your episodes like super short because it's amazing. You can do it now. You have so much knowledge and so much to teach on. But literally, Russell Brunson's podcast episodes are like 10 minutes long. And we were so jazzed. And you know what Scott did? The amazing person that he is, he immediately started his podcast.
And it was really funny because at that same time, I was, all right, well, how do I get started? And I had happened to be listening to a Gary Vee podcast episode that talked about this platform that basically helped you get started. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it. And I got started, and the rest, they say, is history. So you just have to take action. And again, listen, I was not a podcast expert. I didn't know what I was doing. There were definitely some stumbling blocks. There are still episodes, and I love human error. Like, there's still episodes where you'll hear the intro and I'll be like, testing, 1, 2, 1, 2, and I'll forget to edit. And again, it's I like being real. I like being raw. Mistakes happen. No one's perfect, but I can't tell you the advice that Nancy gave me to write and launch my first book and to launch my podcast has absolutely been the two defining things that have built my brick house of credibility. And again, this is over 3 years. And the reason why we launched our Expert Authority program is because we wanted to take the 3.5-year journey that Nancy and I went on building my brick house of credibility, and we want to compartmentalize it and streamline it into 12 months for you. So at the end of the 12 months, you're going to have your podcast, you're going to have your book, and you will be the authority expert in your field. So again, every great thought leader, every great big thinker that you listen to has a book and has a podcast, and you deserve to have one as well. So if you are interested in joining our Expert Authority 12-month group coaching program, the link to join is in the description of this episode. You will save 40% on your membership, whether you pay in full or in 12 monthly installments. And that goes until this Sunday at midnight. And then it's going to be regular pricing from Monday until the following Wednesday at noon when the cart closes. So don't hesitate. If you want to be that authoritative expert in your field this year, we are going to show you exactly how. So everyone, thank you so much for joining today's episode. We hope you enjoyed it. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you next time.
Woohoo!
Bye, everybody. Welcome to the Networking and Marketing Made Simple podcast. I am your host, Scott Aaron, and each and every week I am going to come to you with powerful, simple, and easy to put into action tips and tangible takeaways of how to grow your online business, your online brand, and your business bank account. I will also be coming to you with incredible guests where they are going to be sharing their story about their entrepreneurial journey, about what they needed to do to get to where they are, and they're sharing those tips with you each and every week with me. And again, success is not simple, but it can be made simple with simple steps to create the success that we all truly deserve.